all, I want to tell you about the institution where I am the Chief Academic Officer, University of Maryland, University College. I love working here. I think I have the best job in the world because we work with all adult students. And from our inception in 1947, we started working with adult students. They were veterans who were coming back from World War II. And since then, everything that we do is focused on adult students. It's in our DNA. So we didn't have to be an institution that tried to figure out what to do on the side with adult students because we always served them. One of the pictures that you're seeing is one of our graduations. And so you see this big giant floor with all of these graduates. And what's really cool about our graduations is that they bring many, many levels of their family. They bring grandchildren, they bring grandparents, they bring their kids. They sometimes, when they're graduating, actually take their kids across the stage with them because for them, it's about the family and future generations. Most of our students, the average age is 32. They never thought that they were going to be able to get a degree. They're very excited to be in college. They work hard. And so we try to give them the very best education possible. And we always try to go to them, whether it's downrange in Afghanistan, where actually, yes, we have been teaching, or online, or in hybrid classes. But we have a problem. When you're an open access educational institution, and we are, by state statute in the state of Maryland, an open access institution, that means if you would like to come and try to get a college degree, we want you to come. We open our arms to you. But over time, and this is what we've developed as our retention and graduation funnel, you can see it doesn't even matter if we get down to the numbers, but if we start with 100% of students at the far left, by the time a year has gone by, we have only retained 65%. This is not that abnormal for adult students in open access educations, but it is not good. We don't think this is good enough. As time goes by, we lose more and more students. Why? Because they don't feel like they can do it. They perhaps have negative experiences. Life gets in the way, a child gets sick, etc. So we also know from our own research, because we use data a lot, we have 97,000 students at UMUC, and so we have to think about innovation at scale. We collect data on everything. We know that if a student completes their first course and then moves into their second course and then their third course contiguously, the chances of them graduating in 6 years goes up 3 times. If they do not. So for us, getting them through the first 3 courses, and it really starts with helping them to complete their very first course, that's the building block of getting them a college degree. So we need to do something about that. We have a lot of access, open access institutions in this country. I don't think we've solved access. People will say to you, well, we've got all the access we need. I still don't think that's the case. But we have had so much emphasis on open access that we have forgotten about, can we really help students have success for every single student? We still live in a world, think about when you were in college, where faculty would stand up and say, look to your left, look to your right, only one of you will be here in X number of years. This has happened to people. Where there are bell curves, where if you don't learn what you're supposed to learn within 10 or 15 weeks, that's too bad. And even worse, if you do learn enough to get a C, we still send you on and we say, okay, so go on to your next class. You only have a C. That should get you through. Now think about if you go to a doctor and he tells you that in his very first bio class he got a C, but then they kept moving him on. So by the time he's actually graduating, or she has graduated, she got a bunch of C's, and now she's going to do surgery on you. Most of us would say, well, that's not really a lot of good success. That means we just passed you through. So we believe there need to be better models for students. Now, anybody watch Lucy? I love Lucy. I love that. I couldn't find a clip, but remember that little machine, the candy coming out. If you think about the industrial model in higher education, or the industrial model in this country at the turn of the century, that's where most of our higher education programs were actually designed after. The Morrill Land Grant, great thing for this country, but because it was serving thousands and thousands of students, and it came about in the late 1800s, most of our big land grant institutions, which is where most of our students go to college, are very much in this kind of industrial model. So you come in at the beginning, we do a certain number of things to you for 120 credits, we spit you out at the other end. Everything is lined up. We have to move away from that. When we talk about what's going on in higher education and there has to be a transformation, the transformation has to be that we are now thinking about personalized education, because one size does not fit all. So these are just some examples of, a student could come in and they have a lot of experience in their career, and we give them a prior learning assessment process that they go through, and we help make sure that they get credit for the college level learning that they've done outside of the college classroom. You could help them skip introductory coursework that way. Another student might be able to go through self-paced study. Some of us are calling this competency-based education, where you have a faculty member who coaches and guides, but if the student knows an area, why can't they move through it as fast as they possibly can? Whereas another student might need traditional classrooms, but they need some extra academic support. We can't keep doing one size fits all. So let me tell you about this retention problem that we had. Overall, in the fall of 2011, our undergraduate students completed their courses with a grade of C or better at the rate of 73.4%. So 73% of our students passed their course and got through. In the very first courses that they take with us, these are students new to us, the Gateway Bridge courses, 68.5%. There's a huge drop-off of students. This is a very big waste of human capital. So one of the things that we're doing, and we're doing many things to help students become more successful. I wish I had time to tell you, but I don't. One of the things that we're doing is getting into data analytics and big data in a very big way. The majority of our students take online courses, not because we ask them to, but because they voted with their fingers. These are very busy people, even if they have to drive down the street to go to one of our face-to-face classroom centers. They've got kids, they've got families, they've got jobs. They have the District of Columbia Beltway. We can't get around there. It's like the Los Angeles freeway. You sit in traffic. So most students online. We have a lot of data about our students. We can collect how many credits they're bringing to us, their GPA from prior institutions. Are they in the military? Are they on financial aid, et cetera? And we can also track their behavior in the classroom. And it turns out that when you pull all of this together, and we are partnering with Civitas Learning, which is an organization that has helped us do this predictive modeling far faster than we could do it internally. We identify predictive factors, and then we determine risk profiles for students. So what's really cool is, I'm going to tell you about the Student Success app that Civitas has helped us to develop. By day 0, based on all this data, we can tell if a student is likely to pass that course, if that student will be at risk, or if the student has almost no likelihood of being able to pass that course. And so you see the students in the red. Those are the students that they have about an 8% chance or likelihood of passing that course with a C or better. I'm going to talk about what I think that means after I tell you about our at-risk students. Our at-risk students are the ones in the yellow. That means that there's maybe a 50-50% chance for them. We think, and we started by working on this group of students. Now remember, prior to this, all of these students would still be in our classrooms, but faculty would just be teaching all of them the same, reaching out to all of them the same, and assuming that the problem is with the student if they're not keeping up or if they're not getting a good grade. What we now can do is to say, okay, for these students at risk, and we have this idea that they're at risk, we can now do interventions. So we've spent the past year rapidly prototyping interventions. And the first type of intervention is simple outreach. Simply reaching out to students and saying, hey, we, based on other students who take this kind of course, with your background, it seems like you really need to, based on what we know, get into the class more often. It seems that you are not handing your work in on time, et cetera. Or if they've disappeared, which is a very bad risk factor for any student, we have people reaching out to them and asking them to come back into the course, but it's very systematic. So what are we prototyping? We're prototyping who sends the message, the modality of the message. You know, those of us who are in the older generation, as Liz said, students don't read email anymore. We can send email all we want, but they're not reading it. So we're experimenting with text messages. Phone calls don't work. Nobody picks up anymore. Everybody thinks that we're marketers. You would think that a faculty member might be the best person to reach out. In some cases, it's an academic advisor, because the students can feel safer hearing from an academic advisor and saying, yeah, I've had some trouble the last couple of days logging in. Can you help me remember how to log in so I can catch up with my work, etc. So we're looking at source, we're looking at the message, we're looking at the modality. And I also want to say that we don't want to just blame the student. This is really important. And I think a lot of the work in data analytics does blame the student. So what is the student doing or not doing? In the future, we're going to be looking at course design, and we're going to start, in fact, in just a couple of weeks, looking at faculty behaviors. So, you know, watch out, we might be in the paper next. But we know from our own research that faculty behaviors, faculty engagement have a great deal to do with student engagement and student success. And so this is just the beginning. So what has happened? Well, over this past year, we've prototyped different things, different approaches. In the fall of 2012, 75% of our students in the undergraduate programs, and remember, we have about 67,000 students. These are big numbers. About 75% of them graduated with a C or better. This fall so far, and we are still working on this, we've moved it up to a 77 to 78% course completion rate. Okay, now that might not look like it's big. We're talking about thousands of students. And when thousands more students complete their course successfully and then move into the next course, we've got that many more students that will be graduating. This is huge. You'll notice this red group. We know that by day 0 who these students are at a very high rate of validity. We think it's really a shame that those students are in there at all. There should be no red students. So we're also going to be starting some rapid prototyping of scoring their application to college. What is it about these students that the minute we put them into a course, they have no ability to actually succeed in that course? It's not their fault. We shouldn't even be taking their money. We know this. We think it's almost a moral problem. And so we're going to be redesigning some courses, giving extra student support, thinking about different ways that we can support students so that there are no students in the red zone. Okay, so in summary, in wrapping up, what I've just told you is a very, very small part of what we're doing. We are rapidly prototyping all kinds of approaches to help students become more successful and to graduate at higher numbers. We see a lot of ability, though, for learner analytics to really help us target exactly where we need to help our students. And one of the things that we have just put together, and we're going to be starting an entire website, will be something called the Center for Innovation and Learning. And we're going to be rapidly prototyping and evaluating and then putting these, the results of our studies up on a website that will be at the UMUC.edu website in a couple of months so that you can, and the world can start looking at some of the work that we have so that we can help our own students. So with 26 seconds, I will say thank you, and I appreciate your time.